Hello. Thank you much for having me in this session. And like you heard, there was a small change in the program. And yes, Iranians are ready to welcome you in the country. I don't have enough time to talk about all the details of such a huge market. What I'm going to do, I'm going to just take you through some overview and some very high-level statistics of Iranian market, media market, specifically digital. سیستم هرنی digital team in Karat. I just don't know how to use this device. And I'm heading the digital. Is it this? Green button. All right. That makes sense. I want to go to the next slide. Right. OK, cool. Are you going to change it for me? All right, cool. So a lot of you already know the stats about Iran, the population. We have more than 80 million population in Iran, one of the largest cities in the Middle East. This green one. Oh, perfect. Thanks. In terms of language, the spoken language is Farsi. Majority of people, they speak Farsi, but in bigger cities, English language is spoken widely as well. Capital city is Tehran. We have some really large cities in Iran, Tehran, with the highest number of population, more than 8 million, Mashhad, Isfahan, Karaj. Obviously, these cities are the main focus when it comes to different type of media as well. In terms of age, you saw in the video as well, 44% in the video, we had 50%, a little bit saturation, of people are under 30 years old, and a massive number of 81% of people are under 50 years old in the market. When it comes to brands, advertising in Iran, obviously we have a lot of international brands already and from before operating in the market. But when we're talking about outdoor and billboards, MCI, which is the main telecom operator in Iran, which is owned by government, something similar to Etisalat here, they have the majority of media and outdoor. A lot of retail, like Samsung, like LG, you can see the billboards on the streets, and also the other telecom operators and banks. I moved to Iran like 3-4 months ago. I lived in UAE for 8 years. During the last 3-4 months, what I see when we drive in the streets is one billboard is for a bank, another one is for telecom, another one for LG or Samsung. So these three different industries, they almost own the media at the moment, if you talk traditional media or digital as well. In terms of the categories, like I said, banks, telecom, health and food industry as well, they are leading the spend in media. When it comes to media coverage, TV has the majority of the shares. This is including the governmental TV, which is owned by government of Iran, and also satellite. Satellite is quite popular as well because we have this, very similar to Dubai, we have these TV shows, Turkish TV shows, so the exposure to the customers on satellite TV is quite high as well. Outdoor media, like I said, is still quite popular. Newspaper and magazine, they still kept their share compared to the previous years, and they're not increasing, but they're not going down as well, very slowly. And radio, we still use the radio advertising there. Digital is taking its part in the whole media scene, which we will talk about later as well. TV channels are mainly owned by the government, obviously excluding the satellite. Every year, when it comes to billboards and outdoor media, every year we have a tender, which different advertising agencies who operated in the market for more than 5 years, they can participate. And mainly, most of the billboards and media, outdoor media, these are owned by 4 or 5 companies, major companies in Iran. In terms of the newspapers, we have some newspapers which are owned by the government, which have much higher circulation, and also some other privately owned newspapers, which we will have a look at the stats a little bit later as well. For local TV, just to give you very high-level numbers from 2014, if you get an exclusive prime time on TV, local TV, you have to spend more than $1,500 per second. When it comes to prime time, 350 is much, much lower. Obviously, the low time, which is like late in the evening or in the morning or before noon, is very, very much lower, $35 per second. For outdoor, if you talk about like main highways in Tehran, for example, Hemat Highway, you have to pay $350 per square meter. And this highway, we have 125 different billboards. Modarres Highway, 350. So all the main highways, it's about 350 per square meter, and Chamran a little bit lower. What happens, a lot of, in terms of exposure, billboards, they still grab a lot of attention. So in Iran, they're widely used. For newspaper, obviously, depends on the circulation of the newspaper. The price differs as well. You can see some sample of half-page ads. And magazines, obviously, the circulation is much lower, so the pricing is much lower as well. I'm going to move now to digital scene in Iran. Even though we were under the sanctions and the speed, internet connection speed is really bad in Iran. It's getting better at the moment, but still it's not comparable at all with Dubai. We have more than 46 million population using the internet, so it's almost 45% of the population using the internet, so internet penetration. In terms of the mobile landscape, we have more than 102 million active subscribers. So it shows that a lot of people, maybe 30, 40%, they have more than 2 devices. It's not yet like Saudi Arabia with 2 or 3 devices, but it's a very high number. So in terms of media spent on digital media and focus on mobile devices, it's one of the items that a lot of companies are focusing on in Iran. Mobile penetration is in average 127% compared to the population we have. And we have 3 main telecom operators in Iran: MCI, which is the main one, government-owned; Irancell, which is almost half owned by MTN International; the second operator in Iran, and also the third one is Raitel, which is the first operator 2 or 3 years ago who introduced 4G in Iran. Now Irancell and MCI also, they offer the 3G and 4G features on their network. Smartphone users, we have more than 20 million smartphone users. The problem is that Iran, we don't have kind of market research, international market research companies in the market. So the numbers are kind of estimates based on the media we run in Iran. So for example, if you run a campaign, or if you're running an e-commerce, something like souk.com in Dubai, based on number of people who are visiting or buying from this website or who are clicking on the banners on different digital media, we can come up with the numbers and estimate the numbers. Otherwise, there's no actual source of information when it comes to this kind of details. 3.9 billion impressions on different kind of digital media. This also comes from the media agencies in Iran, the ones who have the inventories in Iran. In terms of app and mobile traffic, we have 93% of the traffic coming from mobile apps and also mobile web, and 7% of the traffic comes from the desktop. 75% of the devices in Iran are Android. This is again based on number of downloaded applications for Android, and also based on e-commerce, major e-commerce websites in Iran, how much sales happen from Android devices. 20% iOS and 5% is Windows and other iOSs. 40% of the whole traffic comes from the capital, Tehran, and also Shiraz and a couple of other major cities. In terms of the female to male, also majority of the users, internet and digital users, are males, almost twice as females. What kind of platforms are mostly used in Iran? Obviously, we try to use all the different types of platforms. A lot of them are blocked, though. For example, Facebook, it's been blocked for the last maybe 7, 8, 10 years. A lot of people still, they try to VPN and use Facebook, but because of these kind of limitations, it's not as popular as the other platforms. Instagram, perhaps right now for the brands, is the most popular social network in Iran. We'll have a look at the numbers and estimate of the active users of these platforms in Iran. We do have our own social media channels as well: Klub, Lenzor, Aparat. Since YouTube was blocked in Iran, almost 4 or 5 years ago, they started this Aparat channel, which is the Iranian YouTube. Basically, you can take YouTube, localize it to Farsi, you can visualize it like that. It's very much the same as YouTube. It has all the different type of media, digital media advertisings, very similar to YouTube, pre-rolled video ads, pre-rolled still images on this platform. You can get proper measurements and data as well from this website. Club and Lensor, the other ones, these are the social media, kind of Facebook in Iran. But unfortunately, these two platforms, they were doing good, but now after these discussions, they're going down, the numbers are going down. People unfollow these platforms, and brands, they're not interested to invest in these platforms. In terms of numbers, Facebook used to be 25, 27 million users until 3-4 years ago, but now it's almost down to 5.5 million. The source of this, again, is Campaign Middle East, which is here. So the numbers might not be exactly accurate based on what we see in the market. The other famous platform, like I said, Instagram, the number from Campaign Middle East is 6 million active users, but actually the numbers we have in Iran based on, again, the usage and campaigns we ran is plus 10 million users on Instagram. Aparat, it has its own unique niche market as well because the internet speed is not that good, so the video channels, they don't have as much number of users, but still it's doing good. It has almost 6 million users. But if you move to instant messaging applications, like Telegram, like Line, these applications are also quite popular in Iran, and brands, they use them a lot. Because, for example, in Line and Telegram, you can have your own brand channel, very similar to Facebook. So because Facebook is blocked, they switch to these channels. Telegram, most probably you don't know it, or you don't use it. In Iran, it's used widely. It has more than 15 million active users on a daily basis. It's very similar to Viber, but Viber 2-3 years ago, because of the censorship of the government, basically it dropped and it lost its market share. So Telegram now is one of the platforms, social media platforms, instant messaging platform, which is used by brands to have one-way communication. It doesn't have group chat or like chat with the brand, but it allows brands to push their messaging, very similar to billboards, but in digital space to the audience. Facebook, as I mentioned, is already blocked, but still, even though it's blocked, it has its own loyal users using the VPN. A lot of brands, they do have Facebook page, but these are mainly international brands like BBC Persia, Manato TV, which is one of the well-known TV channels in UK for Iranian. And also personalities in Iran, like celebrities, they do have their own Facebook page. The engagement rate is not as much as Instagram, though. When it comes to Instagram, a lot of celebrities, they feel more comfortable and they're active on Instagram. A lot of actresses, social media influencers, athletes, they do have active pages. Most of them, they manage the page themselves. In terms of the followers, as you can see, for example, Behnoush Bakhteri, she is an actress in Iran, 2.2 million followers, which is almost about the same as a brand, international brand, Instagram page. And they have a very engaged Instagram page with their audience. Obviously, they're actresses, so they get a lot of likes and comments. There's a lot of engagement. So we do use these people for the brands, international or Iranian brands, to push the social media campaigns, getting the influencers to promote a brand, to promote a product. We give them product to use, for example, Sony Mobile is one of our clients in Iran. So they get the Sony Xperia Z5, the latest model. They use the phone, they take pictures, they post on the Instagram page. So using influencers in Iran is very similar to Middle East, is very popular as well for brands. Instant messaging apps, we used to use Viber. WhatsApp, because it's owned by Facebook, is still blocked in Iran. Viber, it's not blocked, but because of the issues with the government of Iran, they're censoring Viber, so their servers are quite slow. So a lot of people have switched to Telegram already. In terms of the traditional online advertising in Iran, majority of the websites, news websites, and after that, sports and tech IT, they're used for online advertising. Google services are still blocked in Iran, Google Ads, but slowly, a lot of Iranian brands, they started doing Google advertising for the Iranians who are outside Iran. For example, someone who's going to travel to Iran is going to use roaming from a telecom. So they started focusing on Iranians or foreigners outside Iran who want to travel to Iran. Well, the important part of this whole ecosystem, media ecosystem, digital or traditional, is the people. What we see in people are very, very curious with the brands. For example, here in Dubai, when you see an SMS advertising, definitely you're not going to open it, or chances are really low you open it. Immediately you delete the SMS. In Iran, if someone receives an SMS, definitely, and the chances are more than 90% they open the SMS. For example, when I left Dubai, when I moved to Iran, I see an SMS, advertising SMS. So as a habit, I just deleted the SMS. And my nephew or, I don't know, cousins, they're like, oh, open it. Maybe there's something interesting there. So people are very curious. There's still, these kind of things are still new for them. Even SMS advertising, it's been there for 2-3 years. But it's still, for people, it's interesting enough. People are very engaged with the brands, especially international brands who are operating in Iran. But they would like to see local content. Marcus, he talked about the content. So still content is the king. Obviously, for this market, massive market, we need to understand what kind of content people they want to see. We can use only the international contents. For example, Sony Mobile, they have their own global calendar and content. But what we do, we localize 50% of the calendar to Iranian content. So if we have a picture, we go outside and we photo shoot with the Iranian model, showing her using an Xperia Z5 phone. Just to show you some numbers, and most probably you're not going to believe these numbers. Comparing these numbers with what we see in Middle East is quite unbelievable. We ran a campaign, push notification ads, which is visual push notification. So it's a new technology you send to those people who have Android phone. You can send push notification. You can target these people in different locations. And basically, you can send them a creative. If you have Sony mobile phone, for example, you've seen this Xperia Lounge application. It sends you a push notification ad with a creative. So it's much more interesting than a simple text-based SMS. In terms of CTR, we ran this for a retail brand. In terms of CTR, on the first day, we got 15%, more than 15% CTR. In this market, the CTR is usually what we see is 0.05, 0.07, or maximum 1% is like a massive CTR. But in Iran, as you can see, the overall CTR in this campaign for 3 days is 8.4. But we reached to 17.52 as well. For another brand, Sony Mobile, we ran the same media, digital media, and we got CTR of 14%, 13%, 14%. When it comes to traditional advertising and banners, still the CTR, compared to what we see in the Middle East, it's high. It's not massive, but 1.3% CTR compared to 0.05 what we see in the Middle East is something to consider. But since we have majority of people using 3G and 4G speed is much higher than desktop and ADSL, a lot of companies and media companies, they're trying to focus their media solutions on mobile solutions. So full page advertising or, for example, push notification ads, they get much higher CTR. Just wanted to show you some samples of the engagement on digital. When we create local, especially when we create local content, for example, for Sony Mobile, for the student day, we created this artwork. The engagement rate for Sony Xperia Global on Instagram is in average 4%. We got the engagement of 18.8% for this post. Another sample that I guess passed it, yeah, the slides. In average on Sony Mobile Xperia Farsi, for example, mixing the local and international content, we're getting 20% up to maximum 24% we got engagement rate, which if you compare it with international brands in other markets, 4%, 2%, 8%, the maximum we've seen is 8%. for international brands on digital media scene and on Instagram. But you can see the people are very, very much engaged with the brand. Local content, like I said, it creates more engagement. It's much more interesting for people. Even if it's for an international brand, they would like to see familiar scenes. For example, this one is a mosque in Mashhad, one of the top 3 most popular cities in Iran. This one is it's one of the palaces in north part of Tehran. Or we, for example, created this artwork, which is a mosque in Shiraz, and we posted this on Xperia Lounge, which is an international application for Xperia phones. They have 300,000 active users from Iran. And after launching this ad, we doubled our followers on Instagram and increased the engagement by 30%. So I just wanted to show you some sample of what kind of media is used in Iran. Obviously, it's very much the same as other markets when it comes to traditional, but digital is the way to go. A lot of brands, they're moving to digital. The concept of measurement, which is being used outside, like in a lot of countries, it's not used in Iran as much. You go to an international, you go to an advertising agency, what they tell you is like, okay, go ahead and get a TV commercial or a billboard. Obviously, when it comes to billboard and TV commercials, it's very difficult to measure. Most of the international brands who are entering the market, they're interested to see measurement. In Karat, what we're trying to do, since we are a media buying planning agency, we're trying to always keep the focus on measurement and KPIs. When the international brands, they're coming to Iran, and they're coming now, obviously they want to make sure that the money they're spending on digital, it spends wisely, and they can compare the results with the previous campaigns. So digital is taking a lot of media budget right now. Marcus said digital budget should be around 30%. But I guess in Iran, we are going towards that direction. Right now, it's still maybe 70% or more than that for traditional media. But definitely, brands are moving towards digital as well. So I just have 3 more minutes, which I can answer any questions that you have. Yeah.
I can shout. I think you're going to have to shout, don't you? Yeah.
Sure, good.
I know it's not fair to ask you to speculate, but can you speculate about whether you expect Facebook and some of the other platforms to be unblocked? Can you speculate whether you expect them to be unblocked in the future?
Well, we hear things in the market. Obviously, we're connected to from different channels to the government as well. Right now, what I hear is that Google services, Google Ads and Google Services for Business, a lot of them you heard, I'm sure, they already unblocked, some of them, and a lot of them is in the plan to be unblocked. When it comes to Facebook and WhatsApp, no, we haven't heard anything about that. I guess maybe because of the engagement and the political issues, because on Facebook is like a social channel, so people, they can start conversations against the government or things like that. So we don't see that coming anytime soon. But when it comes to advertising and Google Ads, definitely there's no issues with Google Ads. So it's going to happen sooner or later.
There was a question at the back. Richard, to the right.
Thanks. I just wanted to ask whether throughout all the period of isolation, whether there were any international media businesses still operating in Iran. Are there any businesses that have stayed throughout the sanctions and are now kind of in pole position to expand, or are you expecting that there's going to be a flood of new international businesses coming into the market?
Even during the sanctions, we had a lot of international brands operating in Iran, but they had to use kind of illegal channels. For example, if you're talking about the product, to import their products to Iran. So maybe, for example, Adidas is one of the brands we have in Iran. They don't have like an official office in Iran, and the office who's managing Iran's operation is in Dubai. So Sony Mobile, Qatar Airways, Emirates, all of these international brands, they've been operating in Iran, but it was difficult for them. Still, they're negotiating right now since lifting the sanctions. They're negotiating with the government to be able to open their head office in Iran, and obviously in terms of the money, the cash flow, and all of that, it makes it much easier for them. But no, we did have these brands in Iran from before as well. A lot of brands, especially American brands, they have more difficulty. For example, Total is one of the international brands of Dentsu Aegis Group, but they still couldn't enter the market because of all these political issues. They're negotiating with the government at the moment.
I think one last question, just here in the center.
Yeah. How about print? What does the future hold for print in Iran? Print publications. What does the future hold for print publications in Iran? Because we seem to focus only on digital. We kind of share the same story in Ethiopia. I'm from Ethiopia.
Okay.
We went through the same cycle, and I want you to speculate on print.
In terms of publications, it's like 50-50. Like I said, it's not going to go down. It's not going to completely disappear. Newspapers, magazines, brands, they still use newspaper advertising, and they get really good results as well, especially those brands who've been in the market from years ago. For example, they have a fixed page on like a specific newspaper, and every time they have a campaign, they go with their campaign, they go with their ad on the same page. So they kind of, you open the magazine and you almost know that you're gonna see their ad in this specific page. So still newspaper and magazines are used. We don't see, even in Karad, we do have an offline section who takes care of magazine, radio, TVCs, billboards. In the coming year, digital, we can already see it. Digital, it already started getting more budget, but I guess by the time we reach to the point that it's 50-50, we are estimating it's going to be 2020. So in our books, we're estimating by 2020, any campaign is going to have digital part of it. Right now, you have a lot of campaigns without anything related to digital. But by 2020, we'll see that digital is going to be always part of the story. Maybe not completely a digital campaign, but offline and online, some balance of 50-50.